Welcome to the Board of Trustees workshop, April 28th, 2026. Can I get a motion to open the workshop meeting? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Gupta, all in favor? To everybody, all of us in attendance. All right. Item number 1. We're discussing the options of covering the cost of solid waste collection through carting services. The backstory on this is we are just always looking for ways that other municipalities have explored and successfully done that help spread certain costs of services across all properties in the village that use the services. If there's a way of, itemizing what that cost is, something like our sewer rent is an example. And we've heard through NICOM and various places about solid waste collection and carting services being something people have done in the past to have more equitable spread of the cost of the services. And so we had asked our village attorney to assess the legality of it and what we might consider in that. And that is what she provided us in our backup documentation. And so our goal in our discussion is to, understand what this could be, why we might want to do it, whether the board is interested in pursuing it further. And if so, then we can ask staff to come up with a proposed fee structure, and then we can take it from there at a future meeting. So,
yes, right now you cover the cost in your general taxation, which means your not-for-profits do not participate, but they are provided the same level of benefit. And also the taxpayers pay in accordance with their taxing assessment. In other words, your commercial properties are taxed at a higher rate, so they would pay more toward it. Your not-for-profits are tax exempt, and your other properties, for example, condominiums, are taxed at a different rate, so they don't pay the same equitable share that fully taxed commercial and residential properties pay. So in order to change the assessment to be more the collection of the benefit, the cost of the benefit to be more equitable, you are permitted by law to remove the costs 100%. And I think it's indicated as a separate item in your budget. Your solid waste is a separate budget. So you have the sanitation budget, which you would have to remove from the general budget. And then what you would need to do is to establish user fees that are directly related to the benefit to each property in each type of property.
What's the number? Just out of curiosity.
Sanitation?
Yeah, solid waste.
How do we calculate that? Do we do the whole
1.2?
sanitation line item? Yeah, what is that? 1.2 million? 1.2? Yeah.
The one thing about in the backup that makes, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So what you would need to do, and you're permitted to do, is to remove 100% of the sanitation line out of your general taxation. You would have to study and come up with equitable ways of establishing a user fee for each class of property that is benefited from that. And then you'd have to pass a local law to establish the user fee program. However, that being said, since you are voting on your budget at this point and you are at the wire in terms of assessing, sending that for this year's budget, this would have to then apply to your next budget. However, you can go through the process, especially the lengthy process it would take to study that benefit and to establish, like you did with your sewer, like what the costs of that would be for each property. In other words, there are some properties that get 5 days a week. There's some properties that get once a week. There's some properties where it's just a dumpster. There's some properties that you go door to door. So you could decide all of that, that's the most important part of this process. And you could pass the local law with, at any point with that date in mind that it would meet the next budgetary period. So that would provide you with an opportunity to have all the ducks in a row and you could jump on it at the time.
Matt,
There's two things that, I mean, I like the idea of user fees that get the non-tax entities to contribute as just as broadly. But there's a couple of things that make me a little uncomfortable. One is like, the more we break this down, the more bills people get, and they don't really think that they're getting the savings that we might know them to be getting. So there's still people that whenever they get a sewer bill, they think they're getting charged extra. But there's a piece, but even more than that, there's a piece in here that talks about sort of some optionality of like how many containers. And once you start getting into that, like, I only need 1 day a week of, I don't need 2 days a week. You know, if enough people opt out, is there enough money to support the second day, which is a union thing? Can somebody opt out of recycling? Like, how cheap can I make it for myself? Like, there's a lot of optionality.
We're talking about
Yeah.
the wonderful incentivization of minimizing people's trash. Like everything you said makes me want to do it even more. And I already thought it was a brilliant idea. Like as soon as I heard this, I was like, oh, why are we
So-
not doing this?
So it would still be the DPW's decision in terms of the size of the container, the days of the week collection. You couldn't opt out. If you are currently on a double route, again, that would have to be negotiated and you would certainly
Yeah.
receive a lot of pushback. So the DPW schedule would remain as it is because they are picking up at all the properties at the moment. But you could obviously then charge the driveway to driveway or backdoor to backdoor pickups now that are not paying their full ride. And you could also certainly establish a fee commensurate with the amount of pickups at the school, for example. Schools are subject to these user fees. Right now, they're not paying toward that. So you have the ability to look at this to determine the best way to move forward.
So I don't know how familiar either of you are with this, but could you describe like an example of what that structure would look like? Just like maybe you read from another community or was part of this, like what would it look like in practice?
Well, we did, Jeanette and I did a significant amount of research in this, and we did pull up a number of samples. NICOM sent samples as well. The city of Poughkeepsie, for example, has an excellent local law that we could look to as an example. And we could start to poll to find out how these other communities are basing that user fee. But again, it really is relative to the cost of tipping and dumping at the collections and the transfer stations that are already here. So there are a lot of elements that go into it that may be applicable in Orange County, but they're not necessarily applicable here. So we wanted to first obtain whether you wanted to look into this further. And then, it's easy enough for us to come up with some really strong examples. We did find some really bad examples as well, but based upon our conversations with the comptroller's office, we now have an actual contact there we can call. We also spoke at length with NICOM about the benefit, because you can establish these special benefit assessments, but because you're looking to do this village-wide, it would be impossible for you to have to say, this is the benefit assessment area for commercial properties. And since you have mixed uses and a lot of crossover, it would be very difficult to use the benefit assessment.
It doesn't seem like that makes sense,
Yes, it would,
which
it's,
is what I thought originally would, but no, I think you're right, doesn't make sense to me.
it's impossible for you to designate these hard and fast benefit assessment areas, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Well, in
maybe you
terms
could,
of our neighbors, because I brought it up at one of the VOC meetings to see if anyone does charge. Sleepy Hollow does charge, and they have a calendar of rates that I can share with everybody.
That's correct.
And otherwise it was just commercial, like Ardsley does commercial charges and Hastings does specific commercial charges. But nobody else does the rest of it.
And this is like a rate that is based on,
They have it based on like
amount.
The
parts of
benefit.
town in Sleepy Hollow. I
so it's not like they weigh your
Single family
garbage and
home, like
So
multi-family
that's,
apartment.
this is the
one
benefit
family.
assessment approach,
then.
which doesn't really work for Dobbs Ferry because you have a lot of these mixed uses and mixed. You think you had a lot of parking zones. In the past, you'd have to have a benefit assessment area and you'd have to actually conduct, it's a very complicated process. It's used in other communities for sidewalk repairs, for example, and these ways, as you're explaining them. Yes, you could establish a commercial rate and that would apply to all commercial properties. You could establish these higher intensity, like the hospital and the schools, and that you could establish a higher rate for those properties. You'd have a logical reason to do that. And it would have to be based upon an analysis of the benefit they're getting, the extent to which they're contributing solid waste to your program. So you
So how do
do,
you do that?
you do have the time to do that assessment. Because again, you don't have the option to do it this year because you're passing the budget.
How do you do the assessment? You hire a firm to do an assessment or we do the assessment? How does it?
Well, we work closely with DPW to find out, like,
We do it in turn.
yes,
They've started,
yes.
they've started that.
Yes, we can do it internally. I mean, we know where we're going door to door. We know where we're picking up dumpsters. We know, generally, especially, the amount of times we're picking up at the hospital and the school and obviously the schools are generating that food waste stuff, so that can't sit there for days and days. So we do have the ability to look at this, at all the classifications, and then look how it impacts the budget as you have, because you do have a budget number at this point. So you really have the ability to do it internally.
And we
Jeff?
do know the projections. We have a multi-year contract with tipping fees with the county. So
Correct.
we know generally per ton every year, generally this will cost, our budget goes up X number of percent because of that. We can generally figure out how many trucks per yard, if it's a 10-yard truck, if we're taking out 2 yards a day from the schools or whatever it is, or
Right.
1 yard from the hospitals. Again, we're not getting any money from them now. So anything we charge, it's money,
Yeah, and
it's revenue.
the goal of is that the user fees will not turn a profit, but they will actually pay the cost on a more equitable basis among all the taxpayer and not-for-profit, non-taxpayers. Everybody who benefits from the services would be essentially paying for the services. So the commercial properties, I don't know, you may need to, that may not be affected as much as the single family property owners who are being taxed at that residential rate would see a savings in their taxes, village taxes. Because that would be more spread, that portion of the budget would be spread more equitable.
I want to address your first point, which is that your apprehension about how people will understand it. I do think we got, when we implemented the sewer rent, like there was some confusion. There were some questions and there were some people who thought it was like an additional tax. But for the most part, that wasn't that many people. It was a pretty small number. It's proven to be like the right thing to do, just in terms of generation of income to support, infrastructure renewal. And so I think with the right kind of approach, we're still going to get a handful of people who are frustrated with it and feel like it's tax. But I think for the most part, I don't
Yeah,
foresee it being.
That's the least of my, it's more the sort of the optionality, right? Where everybody can sort of choose their own adventure and what they're gonna
They
put
can.
into the waste stream. Like if,
It's not
well,
quite that.
if it's talking about the optional restrictions on the number and size of containers.
That, but
then-
that would be for the DPW to decide.
Oh, that, I read that as I the consider, like, my
No.
across the street neighbor could choose to have
No.
one pickup and I would have two pickups,
The-
or they would have three cans and I would like,
The
just seemed
pro-
like a lot of ordering for the.
The
DPW
program
to
would
track.
the program would remain the same. The level of services, the days of services, the number of, you have now a limitation on the size of containers.
Then that's not a concern of mine.
That
That's
would
what
be
I,
a
that's
separate
how I
thing that
read
we
it in
could
this document.
consider at some point, you know, like people do have stickers where you.
No,
could-
you don't. If you do that, then you're
Separate.
gonna run into the union problems because then
That's a whole different
that's a
negotiation.
whole different negotiation.
Jeff, sorry, I've been turning it ask. So with all this and the tax cap, how does that work if next year you were to pull out 1.2 million from,
It takes it right out of the taxes. It doesn't apply to the tax.
so
cap.
then
So-
the cap has, like, then we have 1.2 million
Spend
extra?
another thing.
Or.
Save it.
There you
But
go.
they still get charged it,
That's
but I'm
the
just,
move.
I mean, like, that's what I wanna understand.
It's a user fee, it's not a tax, so it does come right out of the general budget, completely out.
First, because you can't have both at the same
You
time.
can't, right, you can't keep it in and charge a user fee.
Mhm.
Whatever you charge to the schools, though, will come back to everybody in the form of higher taxes on the school tax.
Right,
You know,
but it won't, but it's, yes, and it's still worth doing if all the other nonprofit institutions
Yeah.
are now.
Hospital is
taxing.
big.
So, my question was,
We only pick the school up and then, we don't pick, and the two churches, that's it,
And the hospital
in the hospital.
wait, what
We don't
was
pick up Vance's school, we don't pick up CV,
and
and we
Cabrini,
don't pick up Mercy College,
but Cabrini,
and we don't pick up the.
it?
That seems very important information.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
to tell us anything else?
Yeah.
Whatever you wanna know,
What about the golf course?
nope.
All right.
no, because that's,
Well, they pay tax anyway.
that's in, yeah, that's in, or that's actually.
And why, and is that because, on what basis do they not, they just decided to pay a private charter
It
instead?
was
And if we,
Before we were all born,
and if we wanted to pitch them on using our.
and for trucks and more men.
Well, okay. But I'm asking the question before that, which is it legal for us to offer that service to?
Yes.
Okay.
Because in the first paragraph, it says this is, that it's not an obligation that you provide this service at all. So if you're going to offer it on a user fee basis, you certainly are capable of offering it to everyone.
So who amongst whom would the new fees be distributed more equitably? So, Cabrini, no, you said no? So the hospital
That's it, hospital,
Condominiums,
district.
churches.
condos,
And condos,
and, same taxes, right?
but they're
But
paying
lower.
a lower rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
yes, they're
Okay.
not paying the user fees.
So my other question is on Matt's,
They're more efficient.
And schools.
the ones that are more
Condos.
efficient, are more efficient.
Are they?
Not generating trash.
Atlantic is more efficient. They're still going door to door there.
They have one repository, right? Is that what you mean?
No.
No.
They don't
We're
have-
going door to door.
Landing door to door.
And
The
so
landing
is
is not really
Hudson.
a condominium.
But it is.
Don't get
It is
these
a
guys.
condominium.
And kind of.
Hudson,
But
Hudson,
like, I'm talking about
Hudson
like.
View is a
Of
condominium.
course,
Yeah.
but-
Hudson View is a condominium.
But so each category would have different rates based on. What is, like, if condos that are dumping into a dumpster, that is more efficient, that is less work
That's
for the
correct.
DPW
Like
than.
Washington's head
Right, so
Washington's
that's where
headquarters
that
Yeah.
rate gets.
dumps into a dumpster, correct? No, what's this one over here that dumps into the dumpster that you go on the private property and you tip it?
Beacon Hill.
Rochambeau.
We
No,
looked at all this when we were looking at,
that's the street, that's the court.
yes. That they have.
That's a dumpster.
I guess the,
So I
Oh,
hope your
sorry.
list.
So what I was gonna say is to Matt's initial point. Which I know is less of a concern than the actual meat of this, is. Could we, since it would be based on a rate of the. Of the category of building. And the manner and style solid waste collection and not based on usage the way the sewer rents are, could we? Instead of,
It actually is based on the same, it's the output. It's the output. So if a condo, a co-op building has 50 units.
but what I'm saying is,
It's not
you don't get a reduction in your in your trash. Fees if you only put out trash once a week instead of twice, to Matt's earlier comment.
Well, it all depends on what the current schedule is from DPW, so I don't know what.
Everybody gets.
Everybody gets twice a week.
Right, whatever, once a week, once every other week versus once a week. My point is, since it's based on the type of building rather than meter, is there a way that we can issue that annually on the tax bill paper? So that rather than another bill that people have to come to the village to pay.
No, it's a user fee and you can
Completely
you can put it on the tax bill, but it has to be a
That's
separate
fine.
line.
I'm,
Yes.
I'm just asking,
Yeah.
can they get one fewer piece of paper for us that makes them come to the village?
So they have to write
Give
2
us money.
checks if it's on the one bill?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rather than get one piece of paper than 2 pieces of paper.
I can take one.
But again, these are all really good questions that we can certainly come back with more
So the
information.
reason we can't do that with sewer is because it's metered,
Yeah.
right? But we could do that with this because it's based on, are you a condo, are you a,
Your address.
right, it's literally tied to the.
But can I ask like a bigger question? Like, I just was completely deflated after
Yeah, I
I heard
know.
Steve's
That's
list
what I wanted
of
to say.
non-contributive, like what, so
Like,
the
is
whole
this
point is
worth
like.
the effort?
Yeah, it's like we were gonna redistribute it, but like
Like-
now we'll only redistribute it to the hospital. It's like.
Right.
Well, but you're also redistributing it to the lower paying condo entities, like I mean. I'm not looking to soak churches or schools for that matter, but the idea that we do have a number of condos by definition, if not in fact, that pay at a.
But we also have
low
hundreds
rate.
of people who live in condos that are really condos.
Right, but it's based on a dumpster instead of a door to door. That's where the difference is.
Okay.
So here's my next question. Could we categorize trash, not add any new institutions? Because the school district gets wiped out and the hospital is one and the church is whatever. But could we say that residences based on door to door versus dumpsters have a separate tax rate? So there's one, so that would be more equitably distributed between.
That's the
These
user
will-
fee determination. Yes, you can establish user fees based upon the actual benefit getting each of the property owners.
But I'm saying not do everything.
One dumpster,
If you have one dumpster, that's one rate.
one rate,
And if you are a single family home for the purposes of
that's a rate.
you have individual,
That's the
buckets.
user fee, that's the research you need
but
to
I'm
do
saying
to find out.
not add it to anyone else, not bother with necessarily the hospital and the
No.
schools and
It's either all or nothing,
why.
Cause you could take the whole.
because the user fees
Service
are
out.
based upon a benefit analysis. And if there's somebody benefiting from the services and you're not getting reimbursed, you're taking it out of the general budget. And then you're still picking up at the hospital, so now everybody's paying for the people remaining are paying for the hospital still, so there's no equitable distribution of the cost.
If we,
It has to either, it's all or nothing.
well, so I guess we should,
Yeah, is
Hand
it,
out,
like,
like-
have you already, because we've had this in like the ether for some time, is there a sense that it's worth the effort?
I haven't really gotten that.
Okay.
started.
Yeah, and
I think that's a key
That's our
point.
talking about
Have a whole nother year, so you
Right.
have time, I just
So I think
needed,
that our basis
I
would be,
needed a
it's
nod.
probably something we would be interested in if it is worth the effort.
yeah, I mean, like,
And
Steve,
presumably it sounded way more obvious that it would be worth the effort if all of those entities, if everything that we thought was getting pickup was getting pick up. If they're not, then that's what we would wanna know.
Steve, do you have a sense of, is it like between I have no idea how much.
can we just come back with this
Yeah,
information?
well, like just back of the envelope, is it like 10% of the stuff that you pick up isn't currently being billed as such? Is it 20 or is it 2? You know what I mean? Like, do you have a sense of? You don't know,
We can come back with a report.
What?
like.
And we can come back with a sample of a, you know, like the Poughkeepsie one I was talking about. We can come back so you can see what that looks like.
I'm not sure I quite got Jessica's
What's the
question.
volume percentage of freeloaders? That's what we want.
Okay,
But that's what we need to establish, and we can prepare a report for that when we start working with the DPW to find that.
All right,
You understand me and honest?
okay, then you have everything you need from us. We gave
Yeah,
feedback.
we can start to coordinate and work on that and provide, we have a list of places that we're going on the private properties and on private roads to pick up. So we do have that list. We generated that list, as you know, when we were looking into the tax Ferrari issue. So we have that and we
Okay.
can
Number 2.
expand it.
All right, this is talking about expanding the volunteer ambulance for board size, so. We are currently. What we told them we wanted them to do was to create a 5-member board with 2 people that we appoint to it. 2 people that they appoint to it, and then a 5th person that the 4 of those people. And then since then, we recruited applicants, they were interviewed. And we introduced 4 of the applicants to the ambulance corps. As potential people that we might be appointing, because we want to make sure that, they're giving a thumbs up, because they're all gonna have to work together. Even though we're still ultimately deciding the 2 of them. They liked 3 of them. And they still would like, and they also liked them so much that they thought, why don't we have a 7-member board so that you can appoint 3 of them. And they can appoint 3 people, and then those 6 people appoint a 7th. And the reasons that I thought this was worth bringing are that it would be great to have a bigger board of people who are responsible for the ambulance corps. The alternate option would be to say no, that we have to have 2, and that they can use the 3rd as the 5th person. But the energy that it felt like it would be better for them to have the 6 people plus the 7th, because there would be more people to do the work that needs to be done, because like some of them are fundraising focused and some of them are financial focused, and I don't know, I'm bringing
but
it to
bigger
everybody.
boards can be more unwieldy though.
But the other problem I noticed when I was working on this section of their bylaws was that it meant that the corporate officers could not all be on the board. So in other words, with a 5-member board, you can't have all the identified, you'd have to have a corporate officer like the secretary or the treasurer that could just be rank and file and a member of the corporation, and not have that individual as an officer on the board. So if you expanded it to 7, you could identify those 7 members on your board as the corporate officers, and you wouldn't have
Like, they're
this.
still gonna have to have people that are in very important roles that are just not on the board if it's a 5-person board.
Correct. Because the document that I reviewed and sent over with Redline and was working with Brad Pinsky on closely, only 2 of the corporate officers were going to be on that board, which is, to me, it was just a sort of an awkward, in other words, the treasurer wasn't even on the board of directors. The treasurer had to be, like, I had to put a provision in that bylaw that says that treasurer, whoever it may be, has to come to the meetings. Like, there's no commitment for all of the officers of the corporation to actually come to the board meetings, which seemed a little awkward.
But they all get to vote though, right? Regardless of title of board.
Board members get to vote.
So how, if 5 or 7, I didn't understand what the breakdown would be if they have a different title, is still on the board. They still get to vote.
Oh, yes, but they would also be officers of the corporation. We could have all the officers of the corporation be on the board of directors. As it stands now, you can't, because there are more corporate offices
Required in their bylaws that
they
they need.
require than you have board members.
Corporate offices meaning secretary, treasurer.
Yes.
So the treasurer can't vote on issues that the board, that come
Right.
before the board, because if they're not a member
I'm
of the
not a
board.
member.
And is there, so sounds like you're. But why wouldn't we just say that it's 5 and choose your secretary and treasurer from those 5?
What would be your reason for not letting them have the size board they would like to have?
Because
we
I
have
don't think we. Because I think we should start with 5 and see where it goes from there, and if there's evidence that they need 7. Having,
I don't think we're gonna
Request
revisit
is-
this process,
request is
though,
not
I mean,
coming
when there's
from-
like a major revision requires it,
but
all this backup
like,
work.
right now, they
Side
have
note.
3 that they really, really like. But like, that's quite unusual.
And those 3 have, who, you know, aren't, or the 2 who we would like. The only people who have requested the larger board are the 2 officers who.
3.
would-
One of them can't do it.
What?
They have 3 people that were in our interviews.
No, I know. But the people who are requesting a 7-member board include none of the potential new board members. It's only the established board members that are making this request. We don't know if their future board members think that 5 is better than 7 because of their previous board experience. So like, we can't say it's the VAC that want it, it's the current members of the VAC that want it, and I don't know if that's sufficient reason for me. I think that.
They have membership meetings and they have board of directors. So the officers of the corporation are currently, I honestly don't know how many board members they have right now. I honestly
They
don't.
have
Does anyone know
6.
how many is typical?
So, because I asked to see the current bylaws and I haven't seen them, I suggested, as you have suggested, that all the officers of the corporation should be members of the board and that change was not made in my initial red line, so I haven't seen what they're dealing with at this point, so I honestly don't know. But certainly it's sort of a strange scenario where you have membership meetings with officers that then can't go to the board and vote on, it's.
But most corporations don't have all the corporate officers on the board, do they?
Yes, they do.
Like a board member is the secretary and a board
Yeah.
member. is the
Well, Jeff should get a vote here then.
Well, this is an
Well,
elected
like, I'm
board.
the treasurer of the LDC, but just to vote. You know, like, no, but that's how it usually works, like with my board, someone's the secretary, they're not taking the minutes, my staff's taking the minutes, so it's more of, but like when voting, that person would have.
So
Yeah.
then you parse out those titles when there's a new board to those board members and, yeah, I don't know, I just, I
I
think
don't know if they
that.
would be willing to do that. You'd have to ask the back if they're willing to do that, put all the officers on the board.
Well, if they weren't willing to do that, then we definitely wouldn't.
I'm not talking about putting all the
Right.
officers on the board, I'm talking about giving the board the offices.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know that they'd be willing to do that.
Well, that seems like an important question to resolve, because otherwise we're talking about 7-person board plus some non-board member.
No, what I'm suggesting is, if you want to go in the direction of 7 members, you have enough positions on that board that you can then say the officers of the corporation will be on the board. But you can't do that as it stands now, according to what I saw when I was working closely with Brad on this.
How many officers of the corporation are there?
That's a good question. That's why I asked for a copy of the existing bylaws and
How many are there normally?
There's
There's a
more than
president,
5.
who's usually also the CEO, there's a vice, there's a
Yeah.
secretary, there's a treasurer, all in a
How do you
combined
know that
role.
there was more than 5?
because that's what I was told
By Brad.
by Brad.
That sounds right. 5, like,
That's where I was.
From what I like, I've seen the list before of who's on, who's on the, you know, the VAC officers, and it's like. I can think of 4 people's names off the top of my head, and I think there's.
This would be a massive board for a small.
So Terrytown has more than 7.
Mhm.
Ardsley has 6.
Does not have it. Hi.
So it would not, I mean, I've been Googling this for 12 seconds, but it seems like 7 would not be outside the realm of what others do.
Don't we have a 7-member library board? And they had 5. I mean, this was the other reason I thought, is because they had expanded it at one point, because they just needed more people to do the things.
I see no harm in one or the other, frankly, and I think that there's maybe nudge slightly in direction towards a larger board for the argument you made, which is like more people involved, maybe more attention, more fundraising, more volunteers. Like there's more potential if there's 2 extra people. You know.
And the 3 of them that we appoint are gonna be in deciding for that 7th person is too, so.
I'm fine either way.
In theory, there's, 4 new engaged people on their board versus 3, which is also. And I also felt like anecdotally, taking 1 away, like there's 3 of them that are regularly engaged. We're taking 1 of them away, but not like giving 3 positions, or that person has to vie for it with the 3rd that we put in there, and like they have to jockey for who that 5th person is. And they kind of have 3 engaged people with our 3 engaged people, that we get a 7th engaged person. It just seemed like you get more engagement with that, and they need the most they can get, and then they can decide if they needed to be a 5-member board and decrease, because,
I'm in.
Yes.
so. Versus the other way around, when we're like already limiting them when they have this request, which seemed like. I don't see a reason to limit them at this point for that.
I'm fine with that.
That makes sense, okay.
And these are quality people, like these,
The ones that we
they
interviewed,
would elevate,
They were very, I mean,
they're
I was-
not
the
bodies.
fact that they called immediately after the last, one,
Yeah.
and they're like, can we just have a bigger board and have
That's
all of
great.
them?
Yeah.
Like,
They're, they'd
like,
elevate.
and I was like, couldn't you just use one of them as your other? And they were like, oh, well, we have some ideas, we want to pitch it, people we want to recruit. Or whatever. So
So,
So
the VAC is in favor of this?
they
VAC
asked
has
for it.
asked for it. Okay.
Cool. Let's say it's.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a rush in us passing this, because I don't think that they're ready to fix theirs yet. But we can tell them.
Despite that, I was assured in January and February that they would take just this section to their membership for a quick vote. They appear now to want to do all of the bylaws at once and take it to their membership for a quick
It's
vote.
not big.
And I don't think that they realize their money's running out. So I keep reminding them and reminding Brad to remind them, so I don't know where you are. But I did prepare the addendum and a resolution when you're ready. Because your agreement, the MOA with them had the 5, no more, no less than 5. So when you're ready, and for the limited time the MOA is going to remain in effect, I mean, you might want to get this addendum authorized, because it may push them to
You mean
complete,
tonight?
well, whenever.
I mean, if you think we can do it tonight, I can add it to new business and we'll do it tonight, if you're ready enough, if that's done enough.
Why is it taking a long time
I
to get
don't,
this deal done?
I don't know.
For
It's-
them,
Yeah, well,
to redo their bylaws, because they didn't want to just do the section that Lori Lee suggested.
No, Brad suggested. I did,
Brad suggested, they wanted to just get it done and fix their bylaws, because they needed fixing. And so. It's taking time.
yes,
And the new bylaws need to be done in order for the new board to be instated.
yes.
But they seem to, they wanted our answer on the new size, and then
Cool, let's do it
the
tonight.
the fire will be.
Well, let's do it and then say like, we're so excited to like get this all done, so let's do it.
We say
now.
though that the time for like, let's not try to redo other things in the meantime and just
Well, if they
get it
need-
done, like, this is the request that they got. And now, please just get the bylaws negotiated and done, and let's not have more piecemeal.
Yep,
So, we'll put it on. I prepared, 2 weeks ago, I prepared the addendum and the resolution. So when you were ready, if you, gave the approval and authorization, it's ready to go and you can actually execute it tonight, scan it and send it right over to them.
wonderful. All right. Good talk. Number 3. Parks and Recreation Commission proposed dedication policy. Jess, you wanna lead this one?
So this is a policy that the Parks and Rec Commission has done an incredible amount of legwork to recommendation. And the idea is that we have more interest in supporting parks through dedications of benches and trees than we have spaces for them, and this will kind of regularize the process for getting them. We ran it through Lori Lee and understand that it cannot be written as a solicitation of donations. It must be a response to a request to make a donation. So this version of it reflects Lori Lee's guidance on that front, which she also ran by NICOM, I believe. And so this is, I think, and DeSanne, if you want to say anything more specific, I think that this reflects a tremendous amount of research that they've done, looking at what other folks do with these kinds of requests. And if you have questions about the nitty gritty of how it works and everything, I'm sure DeSanne will be happy to answer your questions, because she'll have those details at her fingertips more easily than I will. But yeah.
And the table provides the estimated cost, today's cost of doing the various, buying the components and putting in the installation. When we ran it by Wade Beltramo, he indicated it couldn't have a hard and fast number, that it has to be able to fluctuate. So-
Great, so this doesn't become part of the fee schedule.
No,
No, it's a helpful tool that we can provide to people who would have expressed an interest in.
I'm
donating.
for it.
Great.
Thanks for finally doing this. I know people have been
Thank
asking
you.
for many years.
Thank
We've
you.
been talking about doing it for a long time.
the parks,
Thank you.
for trees and flags in the parks,
Yeah.
that's what this is limited to.
Yes, you want to do something odd, you still have to go
Right.
through the.
Come through the
So
process.
what is the next step for this? Does this
This
need to be
Well-
adopted in some?
But hold
Yes.
on, is there one component, do you remember we talked about this last, we talked about some kind of survey of what is, like, what's open or what's,
I think they have
you,
that.
oh, okay, so you,
I think, yeah, the commission
wanna
is
come up
working
here,
with
Jan?
Kendra on doing and updating
okay.
that information.
Do you wanna come to the
Come
table?
closer so that the owl can hear you.
Speaking to the owl.
All right, can you also state your name?
Oh,
There
sure.
you go.
I'm DeSanne Davis and I'm currently the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. So part of this came from that the plaques have been added to benches since the waterfront park was renovated. And some of those have documentation associated with them and some of them don't. So there will need to be some research done to update a database of who has what plaques where and what information we have to contact those individuals. But Kendra is already aware of that. And I think if this is moving forward, she'll move forward with doing that process.
Were the benches and trees that at waterfront specifically that already have plaques, were those in some way sponsored by donors to the park renovation? And do we owe some
No.
longevity to whatever promise was made at the time?
Everything at zero, so it's as if you're making a new donation once this gets implemented.
Right, but my question is like, was there some expectation of in perpetuity or like, was it like, I just wanna know what was
Not,
promised. at
not
the
that
time.
anybody knows, and we did speak with the chairs of the fronts of the waterfront.
Okay, as long as it's been asked.
And they're supportive of this.
Okay, good. So what will accompany this is, like what's available. Right? If I wanna have a bench, you know, where my dog goes, like I can, you can say, you gotta wait 2 years or
Right.
it's available now. Okay, then.
And apparently the arborist has identified some areas in the parks where a new tree would be appropriate, so that would be part of this report that would back this up.
And it's not just, the waterfront either,
No,
so
it's all
we could.
All the
add-
parks?
It would be all.
What would be the turnaround time between payment versus?
oh my goodness.
Payment, the donation, it's all.
A
in
donation.
donation.
It says in here, it's not, there's not it's not a fee for service, it's when it is possible to do, it will be done.
Right,
And the suggestion is roughly seasonal, so
Yeah.
donations in the winter would aim for installation in the summer,
To the extent available.
to the extent
Right,
available.
But theoretically, we've got an inventory of trees that need to go in the spring, if it's 15. You know, anyone above number 15 who comes with the interest in donating would be made aware that it's possible that this is getting kicked to the fall, but theoretically, this is.
so
And-
Kendra's gonna.
and it's
do the
already-
inventory?
What?
Kendra's gonna complete an inventory of what's already out there.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's already the case that desirable benches are completely full of plaques at the waterfront.
Mhm.
And so there are folks right now that are offered the choice of a less desirable bench or funding the entire purchase of a new bench. And we've identified sites for new benches. So there's sort of options for people who want to donate, but part of this policy is that it also will give people a timeline if they want to wait for an available slot. There's now an expectation of when those
Mhm.
plaques will be revisited.
Could like past donation.
Donations
Did you
are
ever-
being dealt with, and DeSantis is gonna send you all an update on the status. of
Okay,
Any,
soon.
any day now,
Any day,
now.
any day.
Hey, all right.
heard about that.
All right, 8
Yesterday.
years.
So, did you send?
No, I haven't sent it, sorry.
So what, has to happen now, Lori? Do we need to like formally adopt this policy?
Do you wanna wait for the inventory to be completed, or do you wanna proceed? Cause this can be adopted as policy as is. There's a line there for the date of adoption.
I don't think we need to have the inventory to adopt a policy. I mean, it's just, that's a more operational thing, isn't it?
I'm just asking if you wanted to proceed
No, I'm
without.
proposing it to the table.
I think we should act on this. I think it's perfectly reasonable. There's no reason to have it on another meeting. We're all pretty much in agreement, and I think, you know, it has to go through the machinations of the department head and the database, and so that might take a few months, and that's it's fine.
So is
So
there
I
a
think-
motion to adopt it?
I think that,
I can hear
can I say one more
resolution.
thing
Never mind.
about the timeline of it? I think the one piece that would be important, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this. Is that for all the donations that were made previously, there is at some point a start date that we are applying.
Yeah.
And so is the start date the date that the policy is adopted, or is the start date a date that could be set in the future? So that once the inventory is done, we actually can contact everyone at the start of the policy. Do you see what I'm saying?
That was my suggestion, because on the date of the adoption, the 1 year period will start to run. During which the rec department has to make this good faith effort to reach out to all of the existing plaque holders to find out if they want to continue.
All right. That makes
So-
sense.
Can it be adopted now to start
No, I-
at September 1?
That logic, it doesn't hold, because those people have ostensibly already had many years previous, so it's not like they're getting cut short in any way.
They would if the good faith efforts. Or if the rec department doesn't have a list and contact information to make good faith efforts, that will run out in a year, and then those plaques will be removed.
Well, I think at that point we can. I would prefer to do this now, knowing that we are dealing with a short-staffed rec department and heading into the summer season. If in a year, I mean, that would be a challenging thing to deal with, but if within a year it doesn't happen, then I would rather like reset the start date at that point than.
Somebody's gonna have to track that.
So So then you'd have to adopt an amended policy?
That's fine. I'd rather adopt this now and just let it get, what do you think?
Well, I don't know if yeah. This will give Kendra enough time, but the current dedications will expire.
But
And
we're
they'll
giving them
be
10
removed.
years, right?
No, a year.
Right, we're giving them a year.
You're
For
giving the rec
the
department a year.
notification.
The notification, but aren't we giving them 10 years or whatever the initial period is? To
That's-
stay?
I think that's how this ended up.
Yes, if you.
For all
contact
donors who
them-
provide confirmation, the dedication plaque will continue for the remainder of the 10 years.
So this puts the 1 year deadline on Kendra. If you're gonna adopt it tonight.
For anyone who doesn't respond.
But if
No,
you do
for-
respond, the clock starts on a new 10 years with your response.
With the adoption of the
The
policy.
date of the adoption.
We're not gonna do this tonight because we don't have a resolution to do this tonight, correct?
So maybe the rec
So it
commission
would
can meet
be-
next week
It
and
would,
then.
yeah, you're meeting next week.
You
We
can
can
find out.
try
the
to aim
status
to
of
have
inventory.
the inventory by our next meeting, which is the week after, and so
Can I ask a
I
question
just didn't
though?
want-
aim to have the inventory
onus
and the
on Kendra.
policy.
If,
Really?
if I understand this correctly, what we're talking about is Kendra has a year to notify the people who currently have benches, and if they say, yes, I still want them, then the clock starts on a new 10 years immediately, no matter how long the plaque has been there. So why don't we just start the clock on a new 10 years now and dispense with this need of a notification period?
Yeah, that's 10 years of notification.
Right. Like what do we
This
get
was
from the
something
one?
Commission wanted very strongly.
No, but I'm asking the commission.
Yeah,
What do
so-
we need the year for?
So I think folks felt strongly that people with plaques currently had to be able to benefit from the full 10-year cycle from when this policy was adopted,
Mhm.
right? That you're not gonna make them pay for a new.
Right, right, right. But what's the
donation.
one year to confirm that they still want it?
The 1 year is that, I think the expectation is that there are several plaques for whom nobody's affiliated with Dobbs Ferry. They've been there for a substantial period of time and
So it's to clear some.
it's to clear
Yes,
some of
it's to
them.
make more room available.
And if it doesn't clear any, then great, everybody wants those plaques. The commission's fully on board with them all staying, but the idea was if there's ones that go unrecognized, that opens up inventory sooner.
I don't know.
So I didn't know if you wanted to put the onus tonight or we can't, I didn't draft a resolution. I
It
wasn't
would still
sure.
be the next meeting.
Okay, here's what I would say.
Would expire.
At the next commission meeting,
Notification.
DeSan, can you get a sense of whether we're pretty close on the inventory or if it's gonna be like a year-long process or something? And then,
The goal had been to have a high school intern this spring. Do it. That was Kendra's initial goal. If she's able to,
like, can you gauge whether that's?
I'll gauge whether that's
actually gonna happen?
possible.
And
It
then-
happened now because it's.
No, they're just starting.
Are they?
they're just starting.
They don't have their assignments, because there was a CAB thing that couldn't get anybody because they were all assigned already, their interns.
No, I mean, they have their assignments, they're doing it now, they're doing the internships right now.
So I guess we'll find
Oh,
out.
so we'll find out if one of them is in.
So if it's, what I would say is if it's not the case that we have the intern lined up, then we're basically kicking this to an September start to even start the inventory. So if that's the case, then we need to revisit that element, because maybe we should just say, we're gonna try to reach you over the next year. If we can't reach you, you get 2 years, and if we can reach you, you get 10 years, if you say yes. And then we, rather than wait
Rather
until
than-
September to start to.
Couldn't the policy just say that when the inventory is adopted by a board of trustees, that's when it starts?
I don't think you're adopting the inventory. That's the thing. You're adopting the policy.
Right, so can the policy say, once we have a complete inventory, the clock will start?
But you can revise the policy however you want to.
Yeah,
I
so
was
it's
just
figured out.
using the
Done.
template.
Okay.
Right, or just put it as a future date.
But
Like
both-
the clock will start as of
both
September
things.
1.
We will revise the policy to do that, and also we will find out if it is gonna be a now or a
It seems
September.
pretty arbitrary to have the policy, because the thing that starts it when the thing that should start it is the completion of the
Right.
information to contact people.
And in some cases, I think Kendra's concern is that she would have contact information for some of these plaque.
Yes.
Representatives, so I think she was trying to give herself some time, this year-long process, but. If you wanna send me a red line and then we can get it back on, then you wanna start it from the inventory?
Yeah. All right, thank
Thank you
you.
guys.
A plus.
Thank you.
Highly recommend. Is there a motion to wrap up this workshop? Trustee Rosenberg, trustee Patino, all in favor?